Boyce was the seventh child of 12 children born to William Oscar McConathy and Serena Alley Offutt. He had 8 brothers and 3 sisters. Most of them were born in the same little farmhouse near Whitney, Texas. His siblings were Burl, Arvel, Earlene, Hazel, Lonnie, Paul, Maxine, Jimmy, Denton, Francis, and Ray McConathy. They were a large family during the Depression years, but grew up never being hungry. They lived on a farm where they produced their own food and shot plenty of squirrels. Boyce and his siblings attended Crow School. His favorite teacher, Miss Ava Qualls, later became his sister-in-law when she married his oldest brother, Burl. According to Boyce, he went between plow handles after completing the 6th grade. At about age 15, Boyce joined the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. He worked on projects in Waxahachie, Texas, and Mount Pleasant, Utah. With the United States entering World War II, the CCC camps started closing. Boyce, along with many others, joined the armed forces. He joined the U.S. Navy and was trained as a commando, which was quite a transition for a boy from Texas farm country. He was stationed in Australia, New Guinea, and the Philippines. Upon his honorable discharge from the U.S. Navy, Boyce returned to Whitney. He worked on the family farm for a short time. Then he went to work for Zero Plate Manufacturing in Dallas, where his brother Lonnie worked. While working on a special project one weekend, he sawed through his left thumb. This was 1946, and luckily Boyce was in Dallas, Texas, and near a major hospital, with a surgeon who had just returned from the battlefields of Europe. With the reattachment of his thumb and months of therapy, Boyce was able to regain full use of it. He was definitely in the right place at the right time. Boyce's uncle Jim Offutt and his family from Deming, New Mexico came for a visit. His uncle Jim encouraged Boyce to come to Deming and farm with him. At first, Boyce wasn't sure he wanted to spend his life farming, but the more he thought about it, he decided to take a bus and head west for Deming, which changed his life forever. Boyce arrived in Deming in 1947. It wasn't long before he met his cousin Vera Offutt's best friend. Her name was Jewel Dean Hayes, and she worked at the Deming Five and Dime. Jewel soon returned to spring classes at Abilene Christian College, and Boyce knew he would never be the same with her out of his life. Jewel returned for Easter break, and Boyce proposed marriage. They married on July 12, 1948. Boyce farmed with Uncle Jim a few more years. Then he branched out by renting other farms, before finally buying his own property near the Florida mountains. Over the next 16 years, 5 daughters were born to Boyce and Jewel. How could they be so lucky? Judy Ray, June 12, 1949. Serena Kay, March 4, 1953. Mary Elizabeth, February 2, 1955. Rebecca Helen, January 23, 1959. Doris Elaine, July 13, 1964. Boyce continued farming until about 1980. Then he took a job building the Fertilize building at Luna Cotton Co-op. The next thing he knew, he was hired as a foreman over the running of the fertilize and grain elevators. He continued working until 1987, when he retired and farmed for another year or two. He sold the farm and moved to Sierra Vista, Arizona in 1991. Through the years, 14 grandchildren were born. Michael and Jeffrey Henley, Michael and Karen Murray, Sarah, Diana, and Aaron Wilson, Miranda, Jennifer, and Bryant Harris, Kristen and Michael Bartlett, and Deborah and Patrick Lancaster. Then along came great-grandchildren, Brandy and Brittany Gurule, Megan and Aaron Henley, Desi and Jamie Gonzalez, Cameron and Tyler Hippen, Landon Bartlett, Kaylee Stearman, Hunter and Denton True, and Abigail and David Wilson.
I remember Daddy's hands folded silently in prayer and reaching out to hold me when I had a nightmare. You could read quite a story in the calluses and lines. Years of work and worry had left their mark behind. I remember Daddy's hands, how they held my mama tight and patted my back for something done right. There are things that I've forgotten that I loved about the man, but I'll always remember the love in Daddy's hands. Daddy's hands were soft and kind when I was crying. Daddy's hands were hard as steel when I'd done wrong. Daddy's hands weren't always gentle, but I've come to understand there was always love in Daddy's hands. I remember Daddy's hands working till they bled, sacrificed unselfishly just to keep us all fed. If I could do things over, I'd live my life again and never take for granted the love in Daddy's hands. Daddy's hands were soft and kind when I was crying. Daddy's hands were hard as steel when I'd done wrong. Daddy's hands weren't always gentle, but I've come to understand there was always love in Daddy's hands. Daddy's hands were soft and kind when I was crying. Daddy's hands steal when I done wrong. Daddy's hands weren't always gentle, but I've come to understand there was always love in Daddy's hands.
Born the middle son of a farmer and a small-town southern man. Like his daddy's daddy before him, brought up working on the land. Fell in love with a small-town woman and they married up and settled down. Natural way of life if you're lucky for a small-town southern man. First they came 4 pretty daughters for the small-town southern man. Then a few years later came another girl, she wasn't planned. 7 people living all together in a house built with his own hands. Little words with love and understanding from a small-town southern man. And he bowed his head to Jesus, and he stood for Uncle Sam. And he only loved one woman, he was always proud of what he had. He said his greatest contribution is the ones you leave behind. Raised on the ways and gentle kindness of a small-town southern man. Callous hands told the story for the small-town southern man. He gave it all to keep it all together and keep his family on his land. Like his daddy, years wore out his body, made it hard just to walk and stand. You can break the back, but you can't break the spirit of a small-town southern man. And he bowed his head to Jesus, and he stood for Uncle Sam. And he only loved one woman, he was always proud of what he had. He said his greatest contribution is the ones you leave behind. Raised on the ways and gentle kindness of a small-town southern man. Finally, death came calling for the small-town southern man. He said, "It's all right, 'cause I see angels and they got me by the hand. And don't you cry and don't you worry, I'm blessed and I know I am. 'Cause God has a place in heaven for the small-town southern man." And he bowed his head to Jesus, and he stood for Uncle Sam. And he only loved one woman, he was always proud of what he had. He said his greatest contribution is the ones you leave behind. Raised on the ways and gentle kindness of a small-town southern man. Raised on the ways and gentle kindness of a small-town southern man.
Come on, Papa, dance. Say crow, Papa. Dance and crow, Papa. Come on, say crow, Papa.
That rooster doesn't know how to